Imagine the most powerful empire in human history, suddenly gone. It's 476 AD. The Roman Empire, the civilization that built roads stretching thousands of miles, aqueducts that carried fresh water to millions, laws that governed an entire continent, has just collapsed. Not with a bang, but with a whisper. The last Roman emperor, a teenager named Romulus Augustulus, is quietly removed from his throne by a Germanic warlord named Odoacer. No great battle. No dramatic last stand. Just, gone, and what's left behind? Chaos, the roads crack. The city's empty. Libraries burn. Trade stops. Farmers who once sold grain across continents now barely feed their own families. Literacy nearly disappears. People forget how to read. They forget how to build in stone. This period gets a dark name, the Dark Ages, but here's what most people miss. It wasn't just darkness. It was also a reset. Into this power vacuum rushed new peoples. The Visigoths poured into Spain. The Franks flooded into France. The Anglo-Saxons crossed the sea into Britain. And from the east, Attila and his Huns terrorized everyone in their path. One institution survived everything, the Catholic Church. While kingdoms rose and fell, the Church remained the rock. Bishops replaced Roman governors. Monasteries replaced Roman schools. Monks copied ancient manuscripts by candlelight, saving knowledge that would have otherwise vanished forever. And then came Clovis, king of the Franks, the first Germanic king to convert to Christianity. By aligning with the Church, he gained legitimacy no other warlord had. This partnership between kings and the Church would define European politics for the next 1,000 years. Europe wasn't dead. It was just being reborn. It's 768 AD. 300 years after Rome fell. Europe is still a patchwork of warring tribes. No one controls everything, until one man tries. His name is Charles. But history would call him Charlemagne, Charles the Great. He stands nearly 6 feet tall in an age when most men barely reach 5.5. Physically powerful, intellectually curious, deeply religious, and completely ruthless when necessary. Over 30 years, he fights over 50 military campaigns. He conquers the Saxons, defeats the Lombards in Italy, pushes back Muslim armies in Spain. Campaign after campaign, year after year. By 800 AD, Charlemagne controls more of Europe than anyone since the Roman emperors. On Christmas Day, 800 AD, in St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, Pope Leo III places a crown on his head. Long life and victory to Charles Augustus, crowned by God, the great emperor of the Romans. For one brief moment, Europe is united again, but Charlemagne was more than a conqueror. He created standardized currency. He established schools in every cathedral. He invited the greatest scholars to his court, creating what historians call the Carolingian Renaissance. Charlemagne himself, despite promoting education, struggled to read. He kept writing tablets under his pillow at night, practicing letters in the dark. The most powerful man in Europe, secretly practicing his ABCs, but his empire died with him. When he passed in 814 AD, his grandsons divided everything into 3 pieces: West Francia, East Francia, and Middle Francia. The Treaty of Verdun in 843 AD drew the first rough outlines of the nations we know today, and just as Europe dared to hope for stability, Vikings appeared from the north, Saracens from the south, Magyars from the east. The real test was just beginning. 793 AD. The monastery of Lindisfarne, off the coast of England. Monks live here in peace. They pray. They copy manuscripts. They believe God protects them. Then dragon-proud ships appear on the horizon. The Vikings have arrived. They come from Scandinavia. Farmers and fishermen, yes, but also the most terrifying raiders the medieval world had ever seen. They worship Odin and Thor. They fear nothing. They believe dying in battle is the greatest honor. The monks never stood a chance. Across Europe, one prayer becomes common: from the fury of the Northmen, deliver us, O Lord. But the Vikings weren't just destroyers. They were explorers, traders, Settlers. Their longships, shallow enough to sail up rivers, strong enough to cross the Atlantic, took them everywhere. They settled Iceland, discovered Greenland, reached North America 500 years before Columbus, founded Dublin, settled Normandy in France, while Vikings terrorized the north. Muslim armies raided Italy and France. Magyar horsemen pillaged Germany in lightning cavalry raids. Europe was under siege from all directions, and out of this crisis, feudalism was born. Kings gave land to nobles. Nobles pledged military service. Lords gave land to knights. Knights pledged to fight. Peasants farmed in exchange for protection. Everyone owed something to someone above them. At the center of every feudal territory rose a castle. At its heart, the knight. Years of training from childhood. Armor weighing 50 pounds. A code called chivalry. The medieval world was taking brutal shape, and then in 1066, one Viking descendant crossed the Channel with 7,000 men and changed England forever at the Battle of Hastings. His name was William, Duke of Normandy. History would never be the same. November 27, 1095. Clermont, France, Pope Urban II stands before thousands in an open field. No building is large enough for the crowd, he speaks. His words are simple, and they will unleash a century of holy war. Jerusalem is captured. The holy places are desecrated. Christian pilgrims are being slaughtered. God wills it, go and take it back. The crowd erupts, Deus vult. God wills it, hundreds of thousands march east. Not just knights, farmers, women, children, priests. All believing God called them. The journey is horrific. Disease, starvation, ambushes. Thousands die before reaching the Holy Land, but in 1099, the Crusaders reached Jerusalem. When the walls are breached, what follows shocks even medieval observers. Thousands killed in streets where blood reportedly reached the horses' ankles. Jerusalem is taken. But the Muslim world would not accept this forever. In 1187, a Kurdish general named Saladin unites Egypt and Syria. At the Battle of Hattin, he lures the Crusader army into the desert, cuts off their water, and destroys them. Then he marches on Jerusalem, and unlike the Crusaders in 1099, allows Christians to leave peacefully. Europe responds with the Third Crusade. Richard the Lionheart vs. Saladin. Legend vs. legend. Richard wins battles. Saladin keeps Jerusalem. They reach a truce, more crusades follow, some disastrous. The Fourth Crusade never reaches the Holy Land. Instead it sacks Constantinople, a Christian city. One of history's greatest betrayals. But here's what the Crusades actually changed, not the map, but Europe itself. Returning Crusaders brought back mathematics, medicine, philosophy, and trade goods from the Islamic world. The Crusades, intended as holy war, accidentally triggered Europe's intellectual awakening, and that awakening was about to transform everything. It's 1347. A ship docks in Sicily, the sailors are dead or dying. Black swellings burst from their armpits. Black blotches cover their skin. They smell of death. The authorities order the ships out of harbor, but it's too late. The plague spreads with horrifying speed. Sicily to Italy. Italy to France. France to Spain, Germany, England, Scandinavia. Within 3 years, the entire continent. Symptoms were terrifying. Fine in the morning. Fever by evening. Swellings by next day. Dead within days, sometimes hours. No one understood it. Some believed it was God's punishment. Bands of men called flagellants marched through towns publicly whipping themselves bloody. Others blamed Jews, falsely, sparking massacres across Germany and France. Doctors were useless. Medicine was useless. Prayer was useless. In some cities, there weren't enough living people to bury the dead. Bodies piled in streets. Mass graves dug outside city walls. In just 5 years, 1347 to 1352, the Black Death kills between 30 and 60% of Europe's entire population. Walk into any village. At least 1 in 3 people, dead. In many cities, 1 in 2, Europe was traumatized in a way no modern person can fully comprehend, but history surprises you, with so many peasants dead, labor became scarce. Surviving peasants suddenly had power they'd never had. They demanded higher wages. They left their lord's land. The feudal system began to crack. The church, which had promised prayer would protect people, failed visibly. People began questioning its authority. New ideas stirred, the Middle Ages were ending. Not with one dramatic event, but with the slow, painful, unstoppable birth of something new. The Renaissance was coming. Let's stop for a moment. We've traveled 1,000 years together. From the ashes of Rome to the horror of the Black Death. From Charlemagne's dream to Viking raids to Crusader knights, what did all of this actually build? More than you think: universities. The first true universities in the Western world were born in medieval Europe. Bologna in 1088. Oxford around 1096. Paris in the early 1100s. Cambridge in 1209. Not just schools, institutions that separated knowledge from the church for the first time, the Magna Carta. In 1215, English nobles forced King John to sign a document saying something radical: even the king is not above the law. Every person has rights that cannot be taken without due process. That single document planted the seed of democracy and human rights that grew over 800 years into the world we live in today: Gothic cathedrals. Medieval engineers, without computers, without power tools, built structures that still take your breath away. Notre Dame. Chartres. Cologne Cathedral. Humanity reaching toward heaven with stone and light. Then 1453, Ottoman Turks breached the walls of Constantinople. The last remnant of Rome falls after 1,000 years. Greek scholars flee to Italy carrying ancient knowledge. The Renaissance explodes, and 1450, Gutenberg's printing press. Books mass-produced for the first time. Ideas spread across continents in months instead of centuries. Within decades, the Protestant Reformation. Within decades, Columbus reaches America. The medieval world is over, but everything it built became the foundation of everything we have today. The universities. The legal traditions. The trade networks. The nation-states. The philosophy that led to science. Medieval Europe was not just darkness and plague and war. It was humanity, brutal, brilliant, desperate, and magnificent, building civilization from scratch, and what they built became us. This was medieval Europe. 1,000 years. In 13 minutes. Thanks for watching my video.